Vehicle production in Canada has fallen by half. We've seen a drop from 2 million, over 2 million, to 1.2 million, down 7.8% in the last year alone under the failed leadership of Mark Carney. Our Liberal Prime Minister has promised before the election that he would protect the automobile sector. It was, like everything else, an illusion. He has since waved the white flag. He seems to have accepted that American tariffs are permanent. He also seems to think that he can carry out a permanent rupture with the United States market in favor of other markets. That, too, is an illusion. Worse, he introduced an EV rebate that provides taxpayer-funded subsidies for foreign-made electric vehicles that are in direct competition with Canadian workers. That's right, Mark Carney is forcing these workers to pay higher taxes to fund a rebate that will not go to the vehicles that they help supply with the parts that they make here. This is a subsidy for foreign producers to kill Canadian jobs. Mark Carney's failure to get the deal that he promised he would get by July 21st, 2025 with the U.S. has meant that we have paid $2 billion in tariffs on Canadian autos. Mark Carney avait promis de négocier une entente avec le président Trump avant le 21 juillet 2025. Il a brisé cette promesse, ce qui a engendré 2 milliards de dollars de tarifs payés par les Canadiens vers les États-Unis juste pour les autos. Under the Liberals, we now run a massive automotive trade deficit, buying almost twice as many cars as we make. The job losses are piling up ever since Mark Carney took office. In PACCAR, au Québec, on a vu une perte d'emploi de 475 emplois. Magna London, 49 out of work. Stellantis Brampton, 3,000 out of work. GM Cami, 1,000 out of work. Autonium London, 118 out of work. TFT Global, 245 out of work. GM Oshawa, 700 out of work. Now, Mr. Carney says that his solution to this is to have a permanent rupture with the United States auto market. That would be a dangerous illusion. The Americans buy 90% of the automobiles that Canada makes, and we buy almost all of the rest, meaning there are almost no overseas exports of Canadian automobiles today, and that cannot be changed on a dime. Even the Japanese automakers have said that they are setting up, the only reason they set up shop here in Canada is because they want to have access to the North American market. They need to use our low-cost skilled hub to serve the U.S. market, and without that access, we see economic collapse. Don't take my word for it. Recently, the Japanese ambassador emphasized in an interview that Canada's main asset as a destination for Japanese automakers is that we offer a gateway to the U.S., and the industry has said exactly the same. No one with credibility in the auto sector has come forward to agree with Mark Carney that he can replace the United States by building electric vehicles for overseas markets. There is no credible voice in the sector that lends any support to that Liberal illusion. In essence, losing duty-free U.S. access would likely decimate the Japanese-led portion of Canada's auto industry, which is more than 75% of all complete vehicles made in Canada. This would lead to a sharp long-term contraction of national production and major economic fallout in Ontario. Canada's auto sector must stay alive, and it must have access to the U.S. to do so. Talk of a rupture is a dangerous illusion. We've now had a year of Mark Carney, and the reality is starting to collide with the illusion. A year of his leadership has made Canada more costly, more dangerous, and more dependent. The deficit is doubled. We have the only shrinking economy in the G7. The worst food inflation in the G7, the worst housing costs in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7, the second highest unemployment in the G7. Home building is dropping by 15%. No pipelines are approved. We need Canada to become affordable and strong at home so that we will be breakable abroad. That means regaining market access in the U.S. According to the Canadian government, 90% of our vehicles are sold there. And that's why our Conservative Economic Council, under the leadership of Chairman Greg McLean, co-chairs Rick Perkins and Gaetan Mallet, along with Shadow Minister Kyle Seaback, and MPs Harb Gill, Kathy Borelli, Rhonda Kirkland, Chris Lewis and others have spent months listening to automakers, unions, parts suppliers and other industry players to forge a policy that I'm announcing today. It would be a tariff-free auto pact with the United States of America designed to double production here in Canada. The plan, it will, 1, make it more affordable to buy Canadian-made automobiles by taking the GST off of all cars made in Canada. This would give a major price advantage to Canadians to buy Canadian. At the same time, we will scrap the costly Liberal EV rebates, which currently subsidize people to buy foreign-made cars. In essence, Mark Carney wants to subsidize the purchase of foreign cars with Canadian taxpayer dollars. We want to cut taxes on buying Canadian cars. We want to bring home production through performance by implementing a rule for every car produced in Canada, the same manufacturer would get to sell a car in Canada duty-free from a CUSMA partner on a dollar-for-dollar basis, similar to the 1965 Canada-U.S. Auto Pact. Simply put, every time an automaker makes a car in Canada, they would have the right to sell a duty-free car in Canada. This would create a powerful incentive for them to relocate and repatriate production back to this country. Because right now, we buy almost twice as many cars as we make. But automakers who want to sell in our market would have to make in our market in order to do it. The same would apply for the other countries in the USMCA. We protect the North American supply chain by maintaining the minimum 75% North American content and existing CUSMA rules of origin. We would develop automotive security and technology by creating a harmonized North American cybersecurity and data standard while banning vehicles from using software connected to China and Russia. We would stand firm on unfair trade practices with our North American partners against China for maximum leverage in the CUSMA negotiations, and we will get rid of the entire EV mandate. Believe it or not, Mark Carney has announced he would do that. He still actually hasn't removed it from the books, and he's promised an emission standard that can only be met by EVs. In other words, even hybrids do not qualify for his emission standards. The effect of this would be to shut down production of internal combustion engine in our country, and it would ensure rural communities would not be able to buy vehicles that actually work for them. Conservatives will get rid of the entire EV mandate for real so that we can compete and our people can choose what kind of cars they want to buy.